You got confusion all over the land. Mother against daughter, father against son. The whole thing is getting out of hand. But folks wouldn't have to suffer if there was more love for your brother. But these are trying times. Got the riots and the ghetto, and it's all around. A whole lot of things that's wrong is going down. I don't understand it. My point of view, I remember somebody said, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, and then folks wouldn't have to suffer. There was more love, but these are trying times.
Esoteric Science Roundtable, and I'm very, very pleased to have a very special guest today, Leah La Chappelle, for coming in today to help me flesh out a few interesting topics. And I just want to mention very briefly, for this month of August, we do have our metaphysical philosophical show, meeting rather, that we here at Esoteric Science Roundtable and Jeff Contreras from Therefore I Am co-host each and every third Wednesday, and that happens to fall on August 20th for this month of August. I am going to be mentioning an event later that's going to conflict with that, so we'll have to kind of sort that out before it's all said and done. But nonetheless, thank you very much, Leah, for coming down. I really appreciate it. I feel like this is like a very long overdue opportunity for me to have you on.
It's about time. No. No, this is so great, and it's wonderful to be down here in this energy. Mm-hmm. And, I'm getting to see Chris of the Starship Esoterica. It's so cool. I mean, I'm seeing him and Jeff Contreras, and of course, Corey. I'm a fan.
Thank you so much. Well, we're very pleased to have an opportunity to base the show today, and the show title is Unzipping Reality, and that is largely based from the book title, Unzipping Reality, that Leah has authored recently. And this is a bit of a small book, but I think that's good in many respects because you're not overwhelmed by, a Blavatsky's secret doctrine. I'll get a better, closer shot here. This is not a secret doctrine, for instance, and it's not a, Manly Palmer Hall's Secret Teachings of All Ages. But nonetheless, it is a very, very concise little book that has, as you can see, 11 steps to create the world we want. Now, perhaps, does that sound overly ambitious? I don't think so. I really don't. I think that, we as humanity have really gotten to the point where we can discern reality and we can decide how to proceed and use steps to, make our wade through and make our way through this crazy mess that we call life and try to, make the best of it, help each other out, be good humans, ultimately, be good stewards to the planet, that sort of thing. So I really am very grateful, again, for you coming down, and maybe we could just, actually, before we even go that far, let me ask you, if I may, just a few a little bit of background information about how because I remember, quite frankly, knowing you a number of years ago, and your I guess belief system, for lack of a better term, was a bit more akin to the fundamental Christian mentality. And granted, that's your background, and my background being raised Catholic, that has a deep impact on us, that these things are ingrained in us, and so they do have an impact on us throughout our lives in many cases. But when we're confronted with different information, alternative information, and other means of discernment, then we start to perhaps question and look at the deeper meanings behind the traditions that we were raised and ingrained with. And so I've seen really the transition that you've gone through in many respects, to really encompass a lot more and put a lot more on your plate, and be willing to take in a lot more things and weave them into your own personal belief system. And then I've seen also, by virtue of that, how you've taken your efforts and energy and tried to inform other people and explain these concepts and embrace them in a more public fashion. And we can mention, I suppose, that you do host meetings occasionally in your home. You have a Circle of Intention meeting, and this is something that I have to give credit to George Humphrey for initiating a number of years ago in his home, and he still has his meetings as well. I haven't attended as recently as I'd like to have, and I haven't attended your meetings, and that's, distance and not having a car plays a big role in that. But nonetheless, the point being is that this Circle of Intention concept has gained, some roots here in the city, and this is a very vital means, I believe, to use to help to establish these ideas, to instill them, within a group of interested people, and then past that point, how do we apply some of these ideas and concepts? And that's what I commend you for, is that the Circle of Intention has gone past the theoretical stage. And it has George's in many respects as well. Oftentimes you find people coming, sharing information about particular projects that they're working on, and it's, again, a wonderful way to exchange, break bread, and be aware of other people's projects and know that you're not the only one out there thinking along these lines.
Right.
And so, again, I do commend you. And again, please do, maybe you could fill in a little bit along the lines there.
Yeah, I was just remarking before we came on, 2004 was a great year. When you're on your path and you look back where you have come from, it's so precious. It's so rich, because if it hadn't have been for that, you wouldn't be where you are here. And so I am completely grateful for everything in my life up to this point. And I mean that genuinely. I have a very large appreciation for all of my history. So, and something that I love about you, Corey, is that you are not afraid to talk about Jesus, and you are a follower of Christ.
Yes, I would say that's good.
Yes. And I remember in the early days, I actually called you up. You didn't know me. And so I called you up on your show. And said, well, what am I supposed to call myself? I've been a Christian.
Right.
And what word do I use? And I think it was you and maybe Jeff Contreras were doing a show together that night. And I was confused by that, because I had such a love for Jesus. And you said, just say you're a follower of Christ. So I've been using that ever since. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's a pretty appropriate way to say that, because the term Christian has kind of gotten a bad rap over the years, unfortunately.
Well, yeah, it's a connotation. And so, although I could be a Christian, I am a follower of Christ. I am a follower of Jesus. Now, I'll tell you what. When you say you are a follower of Jesus, I mean, get what you're saying. That's not just something trite. That's not saying, well, I read the Bible occasionally. No. It means you know what happened to Jesus. Right. So when he said, any man who would come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross daily, and follow me. So this isn't something that we just say lightly.
Right, I would agree with that very much.
So it's totally cool to be a follower of Christ at this crossroads in history, in human history. It works. So that's, that works for me. And when I started realizing that the love of God was for everyone, and that God was omnipresent. Well, I kind of knew that, but then when you really try that on, okay, God is omnipresent. He's everywhere. That means He's in the bad guys too. He's in the dudes we've been saying are going to hell. He's even there. And so this was a contradiction for me. And so I began to stay in the question. You talked about the question. I was questioning. The question is the safest place to be. If you have too many answers, you get kind of dangerous. So, let's not do that. Let's stay in the question. So I began questioning a lot of things. And what happened was I gave myself permission to think outside the box. And so that's what I start out with in the book Unzipping Reality, is think outside the box. Now what would keep us thinking inside the box? Could it be fear? It's just fear. Fear,
right. And just, being so conditioned by the programming that we're so accustomed to over time. We're so accustomed that this is the way things are. So anything outside of the norm may feel a little uneasy or uncomfortable at first until we're really ready to, think outside and then maybe take a step in that direction.
Totally weird, off the wall, wacko, and unpopular, and condemned. How about that?
That's true too. Those are good points.
That's part of it. And so, like in the Matrix, Morpheus says to Neo, it's like a splinter in your mind. What is the Matrix? And you can't let loose of it. You have to keep pursuing the questions. And so, I've still got lots of questions. And so, at least I know that reality is something that really can be unzipped, so to speak. It's been kind of all zipped up, very snugly. It's like all in a nice, neat little package. What is reality? It's what we tell you it is. And so that doesn't work for me anymore. And so reality is actually what we make it to be.
And that's a very big, leap for a lot of people to take.
It's just huge. It's so huge. It's unbelievable. And so a lot of people say, I have fear of large open spaces. I can't go there. Give me a small container.
Right.
And so, whatever. The fact that people are breaking out, so to speak, and expanding it's contagious in a good way. And so the people who are, a little reticent to come out of the box, it's okay because they're evolving too as we evolve. This is all about energy. So, you asked me about my background, and I appreciate that. When I began this journey, I know this now because I can look back. People showed up in my life that were incredible teachers for me. They were just there for me at the perfect time. And I know it sounds, a little hackneyed to say when the student is ready, the teacher will come. It's a little overused, but it's true. And so that was true for me. So I had several teachers in my life. I'm very, very proud and blessed to say. The first was Michael Bednarik. Michael showed up in my life and taught me the bedrock of philosophy. And I will be eternally indebted to him for that. So that was amazing. I began to think because I hadn't really been thinking. And so the template for my thought processes were kind of limiting. So then I started thinking, all right, then you mentioned our friend George
sure.
Humphrey,
Right.
shows up in my life and just, wow, shows me this kaleidoscope of cool stuff. And so I began to sample those things that had been forbidden up until that point. And the thing about these gentlemen were, neither one of these gentlemen were espousing any sort of Christian undertone for their life. And so my biggest challenge was, and I remember when this happened, Corey, this is so big, and that's why I want to share it with the viewers. I dropped my agenda. Because up until that point, I was out there speaking biblical truths, knowing that it was absolute truth. And I was so sure about it. And so I really believed that in sharing these truths, then people would be saved and they would be rescued from a terrible eternal damnation. Well, when I was with these people that were so challenging and just very accommodating for me to grow, I just dropped that agenda. And I began to love them exactly the way they were. They were different from me. And I decided I was going to love them. And I just did. It was just awesome. So then my third teacher was, and still is, all of these people, we still learn and grow together. My third teacher was All Is One Heart Song. Very much my spiritual father and mentor. So that's pretty much what happened is I was really born just fresh and new insofar as I began my exploration of the universe and made a lot of discoveries and still am.
Very good. I'm glad to get that on the record, so to speak, because I do feel a lot of people are going through various phases of this, growth, and having to accommodate new information and put it in the context of their own established beliefs. And how does that jibe with, how does that contest with what I've already, felt to be truth for all this time? And as you said, it can be challenging in many instances. And so I really do feel that that's something that a lot of people are, battling with in this day and age.
Well, it is, because I mentioned my mentor, All Is One Heart Song. What he modeled to me was unconditional love. I mean, he is a very high soul, and there is no judgment there. And so what he was modeling to me was actually the Christianity that I had been hungering for all along. So it just didn't come in the same package that I was used to. It wasn't really that mainstream type of an experience.
And that has been what I've come to realize through my, studyings and my own personal, tests and trials, is that if you really do get to the essence of the tradition, whether that be Christianity or another tradition that's been established for some time, you do find these truths ingrained deep, deep within that resonate in a really very simple way ultimately. And it all does tie back to the heart. It all does tie back to that opening of the heart and being willing to be allowing and accepting of things that may be different than what you're accustomed to.
Oh, but that's no fun. We'd rather fight. We'd rather kill each other.
Well, I'm not saying that we're not wired for that too.
We'd rather judge each other. That's been the game.
The game.
And so guess what? The game has changed. There's a new game now. And I want to invite everybody to play this game. And it is so cool. It's so cool to just see how non-judgmental you can actually be. It is possible. Now, the little ticky-tacky junk still comes up. But the game of it is to recognize it as quickly as we can and see how rapidly we can get back into that open-hearted space like you're describing.
That's a good exercise. I feel that I've described similar kind of notions in the past where I encourage people to do the same sort of thing, where if you're in your daily mode, watch the things that cause you anxiety or cause you to be aggravated or agitated. And, when they do start to, disturb that easiness or that peacefulness, recognize what that was, and then, begin to question, why is it that disturbs me so much? And there's certainly things that we can all find common denominators with, like, getting cut off in traffic and things like that we can pretty much all relate to. But as to our personal reactions and how we can, kind of nullify that spike of emotion that we oftentimes feel in life.
I cannot imagine you being in traffic and, like, getting really flipped out.
I try to keep it in check.
I just don't have a picture of that. You're in traffic and somebody cuts you off and you, bless you.
I take the bus, and there's a definite reason. There's a definite reason why I take public transportation and leave the driving to someone else.
Yeah.
I drove in Los Angeles for 5 years, and that's kind of where I cut my teeth on really, I feel like driving and, honing that skill down. But coming back to Texas, Austin in particular, that did not seem to apply. All those rules of engagement seem to have gone out the window, and so frustration, can easily occur here on these roads, in Austin in particular. So yeah, I'd rather leave the driving to someone else. The bus driver, Capital Metro, he knows where I need to go. I just have to pull the cord, and I'm good. And lot less frustration. So yes, I'm not completely unsusceptible to that sort of thing.
So you get to share with people your message on the bus, don't you?
On occasion, you mentioned that. Yeah, sometimes I'll meet someone on the bus that's familiar with the television show, for instance, and we'll, say, hey, I've seen you on television. That happens in various places on occasion. So that's always a nice welcome sort of thing.
This is the thing about this happening on the earth, this great shift in our human awareness, in our consciousness. It's really not so much what we do, it's how we're being. So it's not about just being nice and polite or sweet. It's about being powerful. And we are finding new ways of actually being powerful. And the greatest way to be powerful that I am learning right now is, what is my energy? Just check in. What is my energetic vibration? What is it that I'm putting out there? What am I experiencing? How am I experiencing myself right now? Am I enjoying myself? Or, is this just really despicable behavior? That type of thing. Are my emotions keeping me in a low space? Or am I actually transforming my immediate environment and perhaps the whole planet by my way of being? And so this is where true power is found, is in our presence. Not running our minds, to some future thing or living in the past.
Right, good point.
That's going to cause, all the anxiety, the guilt, and all the remorse, and all of that stuff to be dredged up, or fear of the future.
Right.
There's so much fear. And this is how we're controlled, is by the mechanism of fear. So that's largely why I wrote this book, Unzipping Reality, and why I have the website, fearorlove.com. Because it's basically, those are our choices. Are we going to live our lives out of distinct fear or maybe hidden fear? Maybe we're not even aware how much of an operative fear is in our lives. Or are we going to choose love? So the default is fear, okay?
It's the easier way to go. It's a path of least resistance, just to be anxious and fearful.
I don't care how spiritual you are or anything. There's still a lot of fear. So, as far as that goes, people say to me on occasion, because I'll give interviews and people will call up and they'll say, "You're just a New Ager. I've heard all this before. There's nothing new here. This is just New Age stuff." And it does bear some resemblance, and there are particular aspects of what we refer to as New Age philosophy, the New Age movement. But actually, when somebody wants to put that label on me, I do the best I can to tell them how divisive labels are in the first place.
True.
And so they do tend to separate us when we label people. So actually, if you have to call me something, I'm a new paradigmer. Okay?
Yeah, I think that's more appropriate.
Yeah, because this new paradigm, we're not waiting for it, actually. We're being it now. And that's why I appreciate you so much, Corey, and all of the brothers down here at Access Television. It's really great. I have a little show on Access.
Yeah, please. I want to give some information out about all your different things that you got
It's
going on.
called Fear or Love, and it's produced by Richard Decker, and he's just doing a marvelous job. He's just so faithful, and he's just always there. He's really great.
And so people are able to catch your show currently on Access or not right now?
It's actually a taped show.
Right.
So I'm not doing the live thing like you are, but it is taped. So it comes out every 2 or 3 months, something like that.
Okay, so you don't have a consistent time slot that
Correct.
you can... Okay, I
it's in
understand.
rotation.
Okay. Well, still, people should keep an eye out for that because...
Yeah, just keep an eye out.
Yeah, it's worth flipping through the Access channels on occasion just to see what might be coming out. And then please mention your internet radio broadcast, Unzipping Reality, and give the times for that as well, if you wouldn't mind.
Unzipping Reality, the internet radio program, is on Co-Creator Network, and that is a .com. So it's co-creatornetwork.com. And I have the show on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and that is live, from 5 to 6 p.m. Central Standard Time.
And I was honored to be a guest on your program recently.
I was the one that was honored. Yeah, Corey was my guest, and it was fabulous.
Well, anytime that you get me talking about this esoteric tradition and information and some of the forebearers of this information, you're definitely going to get me interested. So, and I think that bears mentioning as well in the context of what you said earlier about getting labeled some, new age person or any number of different terms that might apply or may not apply, that a lot of the information that's being espoused is just, it's age-old common sense at many levels, and it's really not new for the most part. Most of these traditions are just a reinterpretation or rehashing of something that's existed in the past that's been held sacred by peoples of all places, all races throughout time. And so for us to discount that, I think would be a little bit, unfortunate, because really information that's coming out now, again, I think it's just a resurgence or reemergence of things that are more essential to our real well-being. It's not this work a day, rush around, trying to accomplish a million things that really are, at the end of the day, are not going to really give you much as far as satisfaction or in the small material gains that we may have at the end of the work day or the work week or what have you. Really pale in comparison to what we can gain if we apply ourselves in a more philosophical, in a more spiritual sense. And those rewards, in my humble estimation, are the ones that are worth working towards and that have given me the most fulfillment and satisfaction in my life personally. And I would imagine you as well.
Oh, yes. Well, I wonder how many people judge Corey Cordes because he's into the Theosophical Society. Oh, that's deep, dark stuff there.
I've heard that on occasion.
Yeah.
But then, it's funny on the other hand, though, people that are into magic at different levels oftentimes will, speak disparagingly of Blavatsky or Alice Bailey, for instance, because it's not hard-hitting enough for their taste in some instances. So there's always that, you find different people having different opinions about different traditions, and that always occurs. And even with what has been labeled the truth movement, you see different factions and fractions and different people.
You noticed that. Yes, even the people on the same side cannot get along.
Right. So, and I think, honest evaluation of information and, discourse can lead to, a more refined understanding of the subject. And so us, discussing it from different angles and what have you, I think helps us ultimately. So what may be perceived as infighting, hopefully will help us just to get to the real meat of the matter when it's all said and done. you know?
Well, there have been these mighty pictures in history, these avatars that have sprung up on the earth. And, the Buddha and
Right.
Jesus and so on and so forth. And they've been fabulous. And somehow, how could we miss it? What was that? It's like they got it.
Right.
And so there's something that is happening on the earth now. There's something that's different. And my perception and experience is that we're getting the true essence of what these teachings were all along. And it's just, we just don't want to admit, it's kind of like we don't like admitting that we've been scammed by the Illuminati or any of those dark worker people. We don't like waking up to that because it's, we're embarrassed. Our ego doesn't like that. and so it's the same in like, that's what it was. Yeah, that's what it was. And so what's different for me is that I am feeling the collective energy of that. More and more people are coming out of the insanity. And, we were talking about the election before we came on. What is that? That is the biggest circus I have ever seen in my life. I don't take it seriously.
It's really hard to, I agree.
I will vote, even though our vote has been stolen through electronic voting machines. I will still vote because I just choose to. However, this election is it's indicative of the level of insanity that we're operating under. This is a good thing. We want it to reveal itself.
Yeah.
We want it to be so sublimely ridiculous. It's like, it's the difference between watching a stage play and you're way back in the back, and then after the play's over you go up and you see the theatrical makeup and it's just painted on.
Or maybe, the sets, that they were using, what have you, all the time behind the scenes stuff.
And it's grotesque. It's overstatement. And so what we're seeing is the overstatement of this lie. And it is becoming so thinly disguised now that they're not fooling the majority of the people. And so, I don't know about the majority. That may be kind of my positivity coming through, but anyway.
But still, so many things that, are what our system and what our civilization is based upon. We find there are ultimate absurdities there, and contradictions. And how do these lies stand, so apparently, apparent to so many that continue to maintain themselves over time? You wonder, how do people keep either denying truth or, conning themselves into believing something otherwise, any number of things. How does that condition maintain itself over time? But I think it has to fall back to, and I'll read the quote here in a second, but our interpretation, our perception of this life in the context of a three-dimensional way of looking at things, where our emotions and linear time, thinking about the past, as you said earlier, being anxious about the future, that's kind of endemic or intrinsic within our human nature. And that's part of the game, as you said, that we play to help us experience. If we didn't have these tests and trials already ready-made within this human experience, then we wouldn't gain, we wouldn't grow, we wouldn't be able to impress upon spirit our experience, our accomplishments, our understandings and awarenesses as they increased. And All Is One Heart song, I think, did a really nice job of succinctly summing that up in this quote that I want to borrow very briefly from your book. And he says, "To be asleep means to be in third-dimensional separation consciousness, and to wake up means to shift out of third-dimensional separation consciousness into fourth-dimensional unity consciousness." All Is One Heart song. So what do you think that actually means as far as a shifting from what we already experience and what we're already conditioned by and trapped in some respects by our own device, obviously, because we need this experience, but how do we expand the experience to where we make it more fulfilling and more, I guess, of a spiritual nature? How do we tap into that more spiritual aspect of things and bring that into our manifestation?
Yeah, that's a great question. This whole conversation that we're having is a multidimensional conversation. And so when we realize that we are multidimensional beings, the ground rules change. Back to the Matrix again.
Mm-hmm.
Some rules can be bent, some can be broken. So in the third dimension, there are things that are true in the third dimension. And by the third dimension, let's define that. That's our five senses, what you can see, taste, touch, hear, and smell. And many people live their entire lives and have their entire intellect comprised within their five senses. So what I am suggesting, what Corey is suggesting, is that we allow ourselves to go beyond that. How do you do that? Well, just ask, is there anything beyond this?
That's step one.
That's a great place to start.
And that's thinking outside the box.
Yeah,
step one.
Thinking outside the
is
box.
questioning, is there anything beyond what I'm so, accustomed to in this reality?
And do I really want more of this? Because looking back over history, we now have the benefit of seeing what has not worked.
I think so in many cases, right?
It just isn't working. And so, if we keep doing this, what does that say about us?
Well, I think a lot of things.
So, this whole idea of a fourth dimension, does it exist? Yes, it exists.
Well, and even physics, quantum physics, and science has really accommodated more so over time that this is a multi-dimensional existence, and that what we perceive, just in the sense, or in the discussing the senses, we can't perceive of X-rays and things that are outside of our visible spectrum, but yet they do exist, and science can measure them, and they are recurring phenomena in nature. So that would stand to reason that there are other things beyond, again, just the X, Y, Z coordinates that we can work within, the three-dimensionality that we can move past. And mind is the key component. The heart, certainly, we spoke about that earlier, that we open the heart and we let the mind go out and expand and explore and become more aware that there is actually more out there. Meditation is certainly one great way in which to accomplish that. That's my method of choice that I've gained, I feel like, much insight and been able to build from that perspective. And so just allowing yourself to open your mind and consider things outside of the normal, everyday, working environment and all that.
I will have to interject here.
Please do.
Now, the mind wants to run everything, okay? So we can draw the distinction between the mind and the heart, because the mind will say, Corey, that is so stupid. I mean, get a grip. This is real. What you're talking about is crazy.
Right.
So that's the mind. So when you hear that, it's a little voice, and you'll know it because it's very bossy or very fear-oriented, like, what will people think if I actually do that? So that's our ego, our egoic mind, and so there's a difference. What we want to do when we open our heart is we want to integrate our mind and our egoic mind where it actually serves us instead of us serving it. And trust me on this, it doesn't go down easy. I mean, it wants to be served, all right? It's a little general. And so we need to be careful for that. But opening our heart is the access to the fourth dimension. I mean, really, call it a portal. I really like that. That makes it seem like it's such an adventure. So when you begin to open your heart, you're going to really listen to people. You're going to come out of judgment. I mean, just be with people and be aware of the little voice, like, oh, I can't stand those shoes he's wearing, or, what's wrong with his hair today, and all of that kind of stuff. And, oh, he just used bad grammar. You know, all of this kind of stuff, we don't hear people. We don't allow them to know us because there are these barriers between us. So these are energetic barriers that are in place because we fuel them. So when we decide, when we choose, that's a better word, when we choose to be responsible for what it is that we are bringing into our own lives, everything changes. Everything. It's a whole new life. And because you can't blame the Illuminati anymore.
Good point.
You just can't. And so it's not a blame game. You don't blame yourself. Oh, it's my fault. You know, the world is passing away. It's my fault. No. It's just that we're here. It's not an accident that we're here right now in this time. We're here for a reason. And so here's our question again. Why? What's the purpose? What is my purpose?
Right, exactly.
These are interesting questions, Corey. Not what am I going to have for dinner, you know?
Agreed.
So anyway, that's when it really, really gets fun, is when we crack open that pathway into the upper dimensions, because there's more than just the fourth dimension. There's the fifth dimension and beyond. So where we're going is through this portal of the opening of our heart, where we find the end of judgment and loving unconditionally, and where we forgive. Then what that causes, because that fourth dimension is a causal body. A causal body. I was just thinking, it's a causeway. Ooh, I like that. That just
Portal, causeway?
Yeah,
yes.
A portal. It's
nice,
a causeway. Okay.
Very
so
appropriate.
It's a causal body.
I may borrow that.
Yeah. Go ahead. There's only one person here. Okay. So, it's a causal body that gives rise to the fifth dimension. So I say in the book, the old order, the duality, the good versus evil, and all of that we've been living under, fear-based, cannot be fixed. So let's stop trying to fix it. What must be done then, or what can be done, is to transcend it. That would be the fifth dimension. So that's what we're doing, and that's what we're creating. So in my book, Unzipping Reality, 11 Steps to Create the World We Want, I map out 11 steps to do this. And it's really not that hard.
And also, if people are interested in getting more information about your book, they can go to fearorlove.com and have more information.
It is available at fearorlove.com, and also...
And we can give more information about the book if they want to get down to Brave New Books.
Brave New Books,
more information about this book available?
Push Brave New Books.
Well, they've done a wonderful job.
We love you. I actually had my book signing at Brave New Books.
Exactly, and I was hoping to get down there, and there was a bus thing that didn't work out for me that day, but I did get a copy ultimately, and I was very pleased to
You were there in spirit. I know you
That's
were.
kind of how I was feeling at that point. But nonetheless, yes, a lovely little introduction for people, and I think, again, that's great because it is, from your experience, you're able to impart that into the book in a simpler way that's not so convoluted, that I think really hits home to the heart in the way that will get those wheels going and start to get us past that what do I want for dinner into more of the why am I here and what can I do to enhance that possibility, that potential of being here. I'm already here. Let's make the best of it.
Let's enjoy it.
Right, exactly.
It's fun.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so to make it even easier, I put pictures in it.
Okay.
Okay? So we're talking pictures, illustrations, and my friend Terry Melton is the illustrator of this book, and he just did a fantastic job. So it's very easy to understand, and at least for your listeners, for sure. And in the back of the book, there's a glossary of terms, and that really boosts your ability to have this conversation in a multi-dimensional context.
Neato. And I want to mention some of the other efforts that you have underway upcoming soon. And unfortunately, the event I'm going to be speaking of does conflict with our metaphysical and the show that I'm having on the 21st of August as well. But I don't want that to be a complete discouragement to people, because maybe you don't have a television and you're not going to be watching on the Thursday, for instance. And so this is information, actually, if we could go to a black screen, we might be able to see that a bit better as well for the folks at home. Thank you very much for that. And so please explain as much as you're able to what this entails. And also, there's a phone number for people that would like more information. But I want to really emphasize that this Wednesday, August 20th, the date that Tobias Lars will be here in Austin, is absolutely and completely free. And so this introductory Wednesday is a free event, open to everyone that has interest in this. And this is a very ambitious title that you've assembled here, Gateway
Isn't
Between Consciousness Manifestation. That's a pretty daunting, task. But I think, as we said earlier, I think these are things that we have within our ability to start to bring into reality in many ways. And so this is a phone number available. Also, the venue is yet to be determined, and that's something that you are hoping to help manifest between now and then, and solidify that. And even persons with a large home, for instance, that would be willing to accommodate the event can contact you if need be.
If I could hold up that
yes,
book,
please
or
do.
just refer to Tobias Lars's book.
Yeah, please talk about that a bit.
He has written a book entitled "We're Not Listening to the Sun." There. Oh, yes, sir. Golly, they're strict around here.
He's commanding the helm.
Yes, he's commanding. So this is Tobias Lars's book.
Just a little bit. Right there. So we can. That's beautiful right there. Listening to the sun, an indigo spirit shares his
inspirations.
Oh, okay. Inspirations.
Yeah.
Okay, nice.
So here's what Tobias offers just on the cover. What's happening on Earth? Are we ready to know more about sex, love, life, money, the afterlife, ETs, the real history of Earth, angels, God, and a true spirituality?
And that's not that big of a book to
I am
contain
telling you
all that vast amount of
book
information.
It just knocks me out. This book is amazing.
And so this gentleman lives in Arizona, correct?
Tobias Lars lives in Sedona, Arizona. And so we're bringing him here to Austin, and we're having this gateway event. We're already doing the work, okay? So this isn't just one more thing to go to, just something cool, although it will be cool. This is an event where Tobias is generating something custom designed just for us. And so he has asked that we just simply bring our stuff, whatever it is that we want to create a shift within us over, then bring that. And so that's what we're doing. And this is so neat, Corey, because this is an event that I want to do, okay? I want to be a part of this energy. And I'm having to manifest it creatively. It's not falling into place,
Right.
And so I'm looking at that. There are obstacles here, and it's because we are creating this. We are learning how to manifest this. So what's the essence of what we want to get out of this event? The essence is that we are all about love and just really embracing what it is that we desire to have the essence of in our own lives. What is it that we desire to manifest? How do we want to do that? And so there is just so much available to us here. So I'm having to learn because I'm a student.
Well, we all are. There's no question about it.
And so it's not just like, think of something and bingo, it's there.
Well, people should realize that too. Nothing is instantaneous.
No, it's not instantaneous. However, I think that in the higher dimensions, somewhere it will be that.
That is true. That's a great point. I do.
Yes.
Really, non-linear, or excuse me, the linear, past, present, and future is really a human condition. It's a third-dimensional condition, and so I agree very wholeheartedly. And many people have commented or written or spoken about this, that past this three-dimensionality, that things are more instantaneous. That's where telepathic thinking and the telepathic rapport comes into being. But I would say that one thing that's really keeps me very motivated and excited about the opportunities and the sharing and the exchange is when we find a Tobias, for instance, in Sedona, Arizona, or we find Allah's One Heart Song in
Mount Shasta,
exactly, in California, and other pockets of people. There are some guys that put on this thing called Esozone in Portland. That's an event that some people that are like Freeman
went to
and
that.
Ikeper, another person that's been on the show a number of times, a friend of the show, they attend this event, and it's just another way to exchange, break bread, and ultimately keep those lines of communication open and demonstrate that, hey, we're not the only isolated people thinking along these lines, and we're not the only people that are innovating, along these lines as well, and trying to redirect the thinking, refocus, reorient, and again, shift the paradigm, away from something away from what has been with us so long, that's just been repackaged, and they're trying to resell it to us, every different way, every different day, but it's the same old, lame old thing, nothing new. And so for us to just get outside the box of that same lame thinking, we can really start to, realize that there's a lot of potential out there. There are a lot of people that are asking these questions, looking to, get past just the simple everyday working life.
Well, we're all one, even with the people who are completely sound asleep, still asleep.
Or, the ones that we would
too.
consider antagonistic to our workings and our endeavors.
Our perceived enemies, yes, we're one with them too.
Yeah.
So, just one other aside about Tobias. Tobias leads people in spiritual adventure vacations to swim with dolphins and the manatees and to play with the wolves. I mean, he is really helping people get outside themselves.
That's a good point.
Yeah, and break out of that shell. So if any of you listeners out there would like to volunteer to host this event in your home, we would just need a home that would accommodate,
Or, for those people that
20
have...
people, 20 to 30 people.
That have
50,
maybe a
100.
venue, not necessarily even a home. Maybe they have a space
meeting
that's
space.
available, right, something along those lines. And so, that is a little bit, that could be a little bit anxious that, you're working towards getting this accomplished. There is a date, a deadline, if you will, and there's still some things that are
We have
left
some
to
elements
be
that need to fall into place.
solidified.
And you know what? It's done.
Let's get into that.
It's done.
Let's get into that thinking where we place the thought, we place the finished product in our consciousness, we declare it so to speak, and then we wait for the manifestation, the physical plane, to catch up with that actualized thinking.
Yeah.
That's something that's difficult to have the faith that that's going to transpire along those lines, that what we wish or what we desire will manifest or fulfill itself along the lines that we're thinking that it would, hoping that it will.
Again,
it's a challenge.
It's you could say, well, just because I say it, it will happen, maybe. However, this is energy work.
Exactly.
And so to really feel it within yourself, the essence of what that would feel like to be at such an event, to have the benefit following such an event, something that you've really been strongly desiring, and perhaps this event will be the catalyst for you stepping into your real power or really knowing who you are. And so that's really important. Operate out of the result instead of toward the result. Just, I got to work harder, longer, faster. Just be it and feel it and have the essence of it.
And there's a trusting, allowing, that comes into being with that as well.
It's how the universe operates. It's how the universe operates. And, you know, if there's somebody out there that's just struggling a little bit, kind of, you know, you keep creating the same thing over and over again, you're not so thrilled with that, I have begun awakening coaching. So an awakening coach comes alongside and helps a person emerge out of those dry, old patterns and really, you know, just comes into who they really are. The understanding, the knowingness of who you really are. And, I mean, how exciting is that?
Well, I think that, people are very reluctant to really explore those things about themselves, and oftentimes...
Well, they're afraid.
And it's difficult
We're
also...
all afraid at some level.
You know, it helps to get an objective opinion where someone can speak to someone, like a psychologist even, from that level, and get an idea of what's going on with this person emotionally, mentally, physically perhaps. And then, you know, somebody that's outside of their situation can look at it and give a better objective opinion about things. And that sounds like what you're trying to do, or incorporate at least at some level, is to bring in, you know, your insight by, you know...
Well, you get past the BS.
Yeah, that's what you have to
Okay.
do. And we all put up that. You know, persona is about that.
We all have that stuff.
Right.
We really do.
So we all put on a persona.
Yeah, we can't see it in ourselves.
So that's something that, and again, that's starting to think out of the box, because if we don't realize that, you know, we operate from a very limited, in many instances, a very limited kind of focus on things. Maybe it's work, home life, you know, just a very, very limited perspective on our existence. You know, again, we have to think outside of the box to want to have an awakening coach, for instance, or, you know, awaken to some other concepts, and find ways to influence ourselves, to infuse our consciousness with a little something a little bit extra. So we don't have a whole heck of a lot of time left. You do have your internet radio broadcast. How do people tune into that?
Well, they can go to fearorlove.com, and there's a link on my webpage. They're my website. It's co-creatornetwork.com, and it is a call-in radio show. So we're having a lot of fun with that, and you know, doing the awakening coaching. It's over the telephone. And let's see what else, the taped TV show. I'm also starting to do some speaking.
Wonderful.
So if you need a speaker for your event, I'm dedicated to waking this planet up.
Very
I want to
cool.
be a facilitator in that, and you know, we can talk to, you know, the normal people. We can talk to anybody and make it palatable and pull them in through this awakening process. It's a real honor to be a part of this.
That's how I look at it as well, you know. And I don't think we're going to have time to get the call or callers that have been attempting to call earlier, and I apologize for that. But we've had such a wealth of information to share, and I'm very grateful. We didn't really even get into the whole 11 steps. And I didn't prepare unduly for this, neither did you, but I've known you for a long enough time that I knew this would just flow the way that it did. I'm very grateful, very thankful. Thanks again, Leah, so much.
Thank you,
And
too,
I want to
Corey.
thank my producer, Chris, for commanding the helm of the Starship Esoterica. I want to thank Jeff for helping out. I feel like the production this evening was really, really swell. I really thank you guys so much for that, big time. And don't forget to check out Jeff Contreras with Therefore I Am every Tuesday, 10 p.m., Channel 11. And we're here every Thursday, 8 p.m. Thanks, Austin.